You want me to put that on my todger?
This one's wife. Harry escapes for a while. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Harry is the intimate partner primary source of his narcissist wife. That means he holds a very important position within her fuel matrix. As the easiest individual control, who also provides lots of fuel character traits and residual benefits, her narcissism selected him as a very useful target and encouraged her through a variety of means to ensnare him. Principally, that was through the lashings of Spitey Bootang and making it seem like she was in love with him. She believed that she was, but is an artifice. Somebody who abuses cannot also love. They're mutually exclusive. The absence of emotional empathy that is necessary to conduct abusive behaviour repeatedly and in a sustained fashion denotes the absence of the concept of love. It is the case that the narcissist keeps a relatively tight grip on the intimate partner primary source. Initially, this is often seen by the monopolization of time, but that's good. The intimate partner primary source thinks they've found their soulmate. They think they found somebody amazing and wonderful, and therefore why wouldn't they want to spend lots of time with that particular individual? Accordingly, the fact that the unknown narcissist wants to spend lots of time with the victim goes unnoticed by the victim as a bad thing. They're treated to all of the good stuff. Worshipped, praised, complimented, bought gifts, taken to exciting and interesting places, supported, shown sympathy, and in many instances provided with a lot of sex, and in some instances particularly good sex. It all makes for a heady brew, which combined with the benign manipulations of the narcissist and the increased emotional thinking that the victim is experiencing by virtue of being with the narcissist, makes it an irresistible force. Thereafter, the sustained devaluation comes along. Many would say, well, if the narcissist is fed up of the victim, why not just get rid of them at that point? If they've served a purpose, if they're viewed as unreliable, etc., get rid of them. Well, in actual fact, they haven't served a purpose, they're still serving a purpose. That's because an appliance that is in devaluation still provides fuel and invariably provides negative fuel, which is more potent than positive fuel. They'll still provide character traits and residual benefits. They still can be controlled. It's just the nature of the dynamic shifts. And quite simply, the narcissist isn't ready to get rid of that individual because there's nobody waiting in the wings. Most narcissists segue with their intimate partner primary sources moving swiftly from one to the other, sometimes seamlessly. Thus, the narcissism operates in that way, so it won't ordinarily cause the narcissist to get rid of the intimate partner primary source victim following the golden period, because it would then take time to find a replacement, and in essence, there would then be a large hole punctured in the fuel matrix. If you'd like to understand the problems caused by changes to the fuel matrix, I'd encourage you to go to the Knowledge Vault and obtain Understanding Changes to the Narcissist Fuel Matrix. Link is in the video description. You'll find that fascinating. Thus, with Harry, this one's wife seduced him and then has been devaluing him and giving him respite periods, devaluing him and giving him respite periods. For the most part, she keeps him under lock and key, i.e. they do things together, he's around the property in Monte Shit Show. Even though there have been suggestions that the pair are separated, the needs of the narcissist, such as this one's wife, would tend to suggest that wouldn't be the case, because she would need still to make demands upon him. It doesn't mean that they have to spend every living, waking, breathing hour together, but it does mean that they'll spend still, even when he's in devaluation, a lot of time together. There are occasional instances, however, where the victim will be apart from the narcissist. Business, for instance, might require them to go away for a period of time. They might go on a stag weekend, so they're away with their friends. In such circumstances, the narcissist may drop the narc bomb, creating some kind of mini crisis in order to prevent it from happening. Those of you who've been with narcissists will recognise the circumstances where every time you wanted to do something, the narcissist dropped some form of narc bomb crisis in order to prevent you from doing it. Or indeed, in some instances, where you might have been out and about and away from them, they suddenly turned up, claiming to just be in the area, for instance. That is their narcissism causing them to continue to keep control over you. With Harry, he has had repeated instances where he has been away from this one's wife, but not for very long periods. Remember when he went to see his father on the cancer diagnosis? It was an in and out, a 24-hour job. When he's made appearances at the Invictus Games, it was a swift turnaround. He hasn't, in essence, been away from her for more than several days at most. This is because, of course, her narcissism doesn't want that to happen. She doesn't want the risk of interference. The more that he's away from her and with other people, the greater the risk of interference and threat to her control. And moreover, during that period of time, she will naturally use electronic methods as a means of keeping him under control. Frequent telephone calls, frequent text messages, wanting to know what he's up to, calling him upon a pretext. Oh, I just thought I'd call and see what you were up to, even though she might have only spoken to him half an hour ago. There are some instances, of course, if she has him in devaluation and he's gone elsewhere, that he may not be on her radar, and thus she doesn't get as involved with him. Because he's not on the radar, her narcissism isn't causing her to think about him. Therefore, there is nothing to control because she's not thinking about him. The fact is, in relation to the fact is that with the most part for the narcissist, even in devaluation, the narcissist want to maintain some control. So you often find yourself in this strange situation whereby the narcissist said, stay away from me, I don't want anything to do from you, but then keeps messaging you. And you're wondering why. Although you're being devalued, the narcissist said, I don't want to be near you, they then keep messaging you because you've come up on the radar and they need to assert control over you, even though you are in that devaluing situation. We've learned that just recently Harry engaged in what you might describe an escape, but it isn't for long, as a consequence of the fact that he actually attended his uncle's funeral. As per the Super Soaraway Sun, Harry and William were seen together to say goodbye to their uncle, but were not seen talking to each other. Thus, Harry makes another flit across the ocean. He attends the funeral, this one's wife allowing him to do so. Nevertheless, she will have been in repeated contact with him in order to maintain that control over him. It doesn't show any signs of reconciliation, though, in relation to Harry and his brother. The report states that the princes both discreetly attended the funeral for Lord Robert Fellows, who was their mother Diana's brother-in-law. They were said to have sat apart at the back of the church in Snettisham, Norfolk. Now that makes an interesting point, that if accurate and they have stepped apart from one another or stayed apart from one another, the fact is that William undoubtedly has an issue with this one's wife. We documented previously why that is. There was a golden opportunity for him to perhaps speak to his brother without her influence, without her being there, without her making doe eyes at William and trying to interfere and take over the conversation. But quite clearly, William understands that it must remain the case that he remains in no contact. And that includes not speaking to Harry even when they're in the same church and when this one's wife is not there. Not only does William understand the necessity of this, it's also the fact it's quite clear his strength of feeling is such that he doesn't want to have anything to do with his brother after what has happened, irrespective of the potential opportunity there would be for him to have a discussion with his brother without this one's wife being there. Ultimately, it would probably prove futile if he was trying to intervene, the reason being Harry wouldn't be allowed to escape for long enough for it to have any meaningful effect. Even if he sought to sow the seeds of dissent, they wouldn't necessarily start to grow. The difficulty is that Harry attends and then disappears just as quickly as he appears, and this is all driven by this one's wife's need for control over him. Quite simply, he can't say, look, I'm going to pop over and see everybody for a week. I know you don't get on with them, so that's okay. You stay here with the kids. I'm going to go over and see a few people. That would result in a major problem for him, because it would threaten her control to such an extent that she would essentially seek to prevent him going in the first place. And there are lots of manipulations that a narcissist would use for preventing that to happen. Fake suicide threats, fake illness, claiming something wrong with the children, major guilt trips, coming up with some form of domestic emergency, and so forth. For Harry, he's allowed to go, but only on the basis of in and out, a sort of 24, 48-hour turnaround. And in such circumstances, that allows him to pay his respects, but it doesn't allow any meaningful interaction with other members of the family, even if they were minded to have them. It was confirmed that both princes were there, and they were seen only at the end of the service in St. Mary's Church. A source explained, "I didn't know they were there. They arrived very discreetly. William and Harry were both there, but we never saw them speak to each other, and they were keeping their distance." Thus, Harry has a brief escape from this one's wife, but it demonstrates the level of control that this one's wife still has over him, and, of course, the resentment that's demonstrated by his brother, that not only is his trip short, but that his brother isn't minded to have anything to do with him either. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.